To our session. The session is entitled Mothers in the Academy, and these particular papers that are going to be presented today are about that. Stephanie and I, our title, we're going to go first, and our paper is called Breastwork as Curriculum, Mothering and the Secret Life of Breasts. But you need to know also that Stephanie and I, we're trying to trouble the notion of mothers being missing in academia. And we're trying to put forth the argument that we are very present in the context of academia. Excuse me. Oh, I'm Deb Friedman.
And I'm Stephanie Springay.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Was there anything else I missed?
No, you're not that famous yet.
No, I'm not. Please.
Okay.
Women's breasts are invested with social, cultural, and political meanings, which shape the ways we make sense of, experience, and materialize our embodied selves. Breasts can be highly prized objects of sexual desire, and are markers of the monstrous, harassment, and shame, thus compelling women to experience their breasted bodies in confusing and contradictory ways. Large breasts further complicate this ambivalence, given the societal and cultural meanings understood in relation to breast size. Discourses of beauty in Western society have required breasts to be a particular size and shape, and while the popular message is that big is better, feminist scholar Iris Young notes that the ideal breast is round, sitting high on the chest, large but not bulbous with a look of firmness. Breasts that do not measure up or cover up threaten to exceed the rational framework, disrupting the binary categories through which the clean and proper self is held apart from abjection. Maternal breasts, swollen and engorged, and sometimes leaking, emphasize the unpredictable and excessiveness of a woman's breasted body.
Our presentation examines how stories of breasts can be figured into an enabling narrative for academic women and the ways that they live in their breasted bodies. It considers the possibilities of breasts as thoughtful, emotional, and knowledgeable, asking the questions: if breasts can be thought of as a site of embodied knowledge, how could this reconceptualize understandings of and engagements with pedagogy? How might breasted bodies become pedagogies of excess? How does a woman academic incorporate her breasted self into her professional work? And how does her work affect her breasts? In order to examine such potentialities, we draw on Rosa Braidotti's materialist theory of becoming, which opens up morphologies of embodiment to mutations, changes, and transformations, destabilizing aesthetic ideals of the maternal body. A materialist theory of becoming provides a way to think of mothering as a relational process, a site of interembodiment that shifts the figurations of maternal subjects and their ways of being in the world. Figurations de-center images, offering multi-layered visions of the subject that are dynamic, accentuating that we live in a world that is always in transition, hybrid, and nomadic, and that these stages defy the established modes of theoretical representation. Differing from metaphor, figurations are living maps, particular and specific accounts of the self. Drawing on our own narratives as breasted bodies, our aim is not to make claims about the experience of all large-breasted women or the maternal body, but to use our stories to interrogate understandings of embodiment, mothering, and public pedagogy.
Feminist scholar Iris Young observes that all women are affected by their experience of having or lacking breasts, whether they are mothers or not. However, we contend that the maternal breast, plump and pumped, engorged, swollen, and overflowing, is a lived bodily experience that marks the mother's body as excessive, threatening, and uncontainable, perhaps not ready for tenure and promotion. In our presentation today, we take up women's bodily excesses through our own personal narratives in order to rupture and reconfigure, and perhaps parody the experience of breastwork and mothering in the academy.
Moria arrived on a sunny, mild afternoon at the end of December 2004. I had just completed my first semester as an assistant professor, my first appointment since graduate school. Only a few weeks after giving birth through an emergency C-section and still juggling the demands of first-time mothering, I was required by my department to attend a meeting on campus to review job applications for an assistant professor position. I was exclusively nursing, so I decided to bring Moria with me. However, at only 3 weeks, I had not figured out the art of public breastfeeding, diaper changing, and stroller navigation over ice. By the time we arrived at the meeting, I was already a nervous wreck, and Moria, who had nursed before I left the house, was screaming to be fed once again. I settled myself into a chair behind a stack of files containing job applications and proceeded to nurse Moria. At home, I whipped it out, sat on the couch, and cradled her with one arm while the other held my breast to her face, and settled into a lactation stupor. In the conference room, I tried draping a receiving blanket over my shoulder and her head, but her little legs kept kicking it aside. "Hey, Mom, I can't see your face." I wasn't doing such a skilled job of nursing with one hand, and while the other flipped through files on the table. My breast kept falling out of her mouth. Milk sprayed, and Moria screamed. Then she pooped. Without a changing table nearby, I hovered in a corner of the conference room, cleaning yellow baby shit, while simultaneously being asked by my colleagues my opinions about various candidates. I had not yet read a single file. I thought I noticed, muttering an answer while juggling the sticky paste of butt cream, I thought I noticed milk droplets on the files in front of me. Somewhere in the midst of this meeting, after nursing a few more times and a few more poopy diapers, I excused myself and went home. Years later, a full professor, feminist, and mother of two said to me, remembering that fateful day, "I didn't know who was going to cry first, you or your daughter."
I discovered that I was pregnant exactly 1 month after I turned in my materials for tenure and promotion. As my tenure materials worked their way through the process, outside reviewers, department committees, college committees, and university committees, my body began to swell. And as I wondered about how my colleagues were evaluating my scholarship, I also wondered about how my colleagues were evaluating my bulging belly, and especially my ever-expanding bust line.
Although there are multiple histories which examine subjectivity, there are often two most commonly used forms. The Cartesian model of mind-body reduces the body so that it becomes a supplement of the mind. A more phenomenological approach places subjectivity as inseparable from experience and being in the world. Both theories assume a model of corporality. Both theories assume a normal model of corporeality. Schildrich argues the so-called normal and natural body, and particularly its smooth and closed-up surface, is then an achievement, a model of the proper, in which everything is in its place. The chaotic aspects of the natural are banished. In contrast, the monstrous resists the values associated with normalcy, reminding us that what must be objected from the proper and clean subject. The abject cannot be completely expelled from the body, but is always already present, disturbing and engendering and endangering the limits of the body. Theories of objection suggest that the fundamentally unstable corpus is always already present, threatening to reveal the corporal vulnerability of the self, as opposed to the normative body, which posits the separation and proper constitution of bodily form. The pregnant and nursing body, conjoined with another, becomes a figure of excess. Thus, the ambiguous, fluid, and unbounded body marks the monstrous as a site of disruption. Excess becomes not lack, but lack of containment. It is a body constructed within complexity, a formless flow, a viscosity.